As you could see, we had a little seepage. This is actually kind of the good stuff, to be honest with you. While you're cooking for your friends and the family, this is where you kind of just grab a little piece of mozzarella and you turn around and do one of those. Today we're making American pizzeria classic. Calzone is one of my favorite things at pizzerias. We have some pizza dough, some fresh mozzarella that we made fresh today. This is the ricotta that we're gonna put inside that's actually seasoned, and then just a little bit of flour. Over here I have some extra black pepper and just some really good olive oil. We're gonna oil this pan up nice and throw it in the oven and see what results we get cooking it at a home kitchen. First, I'm gonna take a little bit of flour, I'm gonna spread it right on the counter. Just enough to make sure the dough doesn't stick to the bottom of the table. We're gonna take this dough, dip it in the flour. So this dough that we're working with here is a homemade pizza dough. We actually did a pizza dough recipe on a how-to for Munchies that worked really well. So you guys can reference that dough recipe while you're making this calzone and it'll work out great. With my fingers, I'm gonna push it out and make it nice and round. This is where the fun part comes in. We're gonna take the ricotta and the mozzarella and start layering it in. The star of the show in this is the ricotta. At the pizzeria, we like to flavor the ricotta. So we'll put a little bit of extra stuff in there just to kind of kick it up a notch and give that extra zing. So in this ricotta, we put salt and pepper, of course, but then a little bit of lemon juice and then some lemon zest as well. The ricotta is a little bit more moist. It's gonna leak out some water, so we'll start with the mozzarella at the bottom. I consider this like a medium moisture mozzarella. It's made fresh from curd, and now we'll give it a quick grate. For this particular recipe, we don't really need that much, so I really think that's gonna do it. You don't really want the dough to kind of sit on the table for too long because it'll start to stick. What I like to do is kind of just run my fingers along the dough, even give it a little shake so I know that it'll be easy to lift and kind of bring over to the tray when it's time to cook. A little bit of that shredded mozzarella right in the middle. I don't go all the way to the ends. I kind of leave a little bit in the middle, even if it's like a little mountain, that's cool because it helps create that pouch that you're used to seeing when you have a calzone. All right, we're gonna go with the ricotta. 1, 2 scoops, and I think we could do 2.5. I think will be perfect. We're gonna put a little bit more of this mozzarella that we cut up right on top too. So basically you take one side of the calzone dough and you fold it over towards you. And with the back of the pizza cutter, this is kind of the trick that helps seal the dough together. You're gonna just kind of pound it down. So not at the very end, maybe like, you know, 1/4 of an inch in. You just give it a little. You're gonna take the cutter and just to even help seal it some more, you're gonna kind of just cut. And not only does it help seal it in, but it gives it a nice clean look. This scrap dough, I always like to hold on to. You know, you could always find something fun to do with the scrap dough. Roll it up, make a garlic knot. Now that we have our calzone almost ready, grab a sharp knife, just go to the top of it and kind of just give it a little X. The heat's gonna come in and the mozzarella right in that section is gonna start to bubble up, get crispy, a little caramelization. And that to me are like, those are like the little bits that taste so good. The last step is to kind of transfer the calzone onto the baking tray. First thing I'm gonna do is kind of oil up the pan. And then very gently, you just wanna pick up the calzone, place it right on that pan. Add a little bit of olive oil on top, brush it with a pastry brush. We'll give it that shiny color that you're used to seeing, you know, in pizzerias. It looks good right now. We're gonna pop it into the hot oven. It's set to like 500 degrees right now. Give that about 15, 20 minutes and check in on it again. If you haven't tried your hand at making dough at home, you could always go to your local pizzeria and buy, you know, pizza dough for a calzone. My mother would make calzones for us at home. It was like always a special treat. And then she would get all these cool stuffings, you know, so ricotta, broccoli rabe or regular broccoli, the dried salsiccia that my grandfather used to make always made its way in there. My favorite ingredient inside a calzone is anchovies. My mouth is watering thinking of it right now. It's one of my favorite kind of flavor combinations. You have that soft ricotta and the salty anchovies. I just raided the Munchies walk-in and I happened to find some awesome stuff. We got some great Calabrian chilies. We have awesome anchovies, sesame seeds that are uncooked. We're gonna do calzone 2.0 here. We're gonna kick it up a notch. So I have a couple places that I love going to for calzones. My #1 spot is Lucali's in Carroll Gardens. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. Mark is like a big brother to me, but he also makes, in my opinion, the best calzone in the city. He serves it with a big bowl of marinara sauce. and a bunch of basil on the side. Any of you guys out there watching this video and you start getting hungry and you're like, I need an amazing calzone, head over to Lucali's and ask Mark to make you a great calzone because he's a pro. Anchovies and Calabrian peppers, you don't really want to get right on your hands, but we have a pair of gloves over here. Anchovies are acquired taste. Some people love them, some people hate them, but I think if they're not overused, they help add that extra kick, that extra umami, that extra background flavor. I'm just gonna lay about 2.5 of those anchovies in there. And I'm gonna sprinkle these right on top and basically cover the anchovies with the peppers. I love ratios kind of being intact, not being too hot or too salty. Just when you take the bite of the calzone, the idea is that you get a little bit of bite of everything. I'm gonna kind of shape it, push it down a little bit. I'm gonna score it. And then we're gonna get a pastry brush, just a little bit of water, and then right over the top. Not over the area that you scored, but just over the broad side of the calzone, so it kind of activates the gluten and makes it a little tacky. And then we'll go right over with the sesame seeds. We're gonna take our EVOO and generously put it on, kind of just spread it out, and now kind of gently lift it up and plop it right down. So we're ready to rock and roll. Pull this guy now. Nice. We just pulled the calzone out of the oven. It was about 10 to 12 minutes at 500 degrees, and it looks great. It has that really nice brown and caramelization to it on the tips. You could see the mozzarella and the ricotta sort of oozing out of the top. It stayed sealed really nicely. I'm gonna take this right over here. If you have a little ramekin, a tomato sauce, I mean, there's nothing better than that. I like to go right down the middle. So this thing cooked really nice. The ricotta and the mozzarella melted really well together, and I'm just ready to go for it. So let's do this. I'm not gonna be neat about this. I'm just going in, folks. You get a nice crispiness, especially on the outside, but inside it's kind of soft. It has a little bit of a bite to it, but it has a really nice creamy texture with the mozzarella. It almost tastes like a pizza, but even a little bit more consistency to it. Calzone number 2 just came out of the oven, and as you could see, we had a little seepage. Sometimes these things happen, you know, if you're at home and you cut it. I cut this one a little bit too large. Some of the cheese came out, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Go right down the middle so I could see that center cut. Dip it right in here with some tomato sauce. Forget about it. So these anchovies that we're using are excellent. They have a salinity to them, but it's not a super fishy flavor. Mixed in with the ricotta and especially with the hot peppers, it kind of balances each other and it's not too overpowering. So if you maybe are afraid of anchovies or you don't think you like them, I really suggest giving them a try because it's such a special ingredient and it really adds a really depth of flavor to whatever you may be cooking them in. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is really one of those classic New York pizzeria dishes. I enjoyed it in my childhood growing up eating them, and I hope that you take a crack at it and enjoy it as well.